Today, we have the privilege of welcoming one of the Blues' most distinguished alumni, ladies and gentlemen. He played with the Blues from 1976 to 1989, posting 4 100-plus point seasons. He's an NHL Hall of Famer. He has the number 24 retired in the Enterprise Center rafters and has been broadcasting with the St. Louis Blues since 1996. He has seen a real evolution of Blues hockey. It's our honor to have Bernie Federko here for the Midweek Shift. Bernie, welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's always great to be on.
Perfect. That's right. We're excited to have you. Bernie, before we kind of get into all the greater realm of the season that we're very happy to be discussing with you, we're kind of curious. I know last night is very fresh in our minds, and I'm sure it is with you. And last night was a very tough game for the St. Louis Blues, and I think exposed a lot of the holes with this team. I think offensively, as we saw last night, but also some goaltending issues and a little bit of some extracurriculars as well with Jim Montgomery and Jordan Binnington. I don't know what you heard or what you saw, but what do you make of what you saw last night against the Ducks?
Well, this is just typical hockey. I mean, when you're a team that's really not where you want to be, you're going to have some struggles and you're going to have some confrontations during games. And with Jordan Binnington, yes, he was pulled after a couple of goals last night. I didn't really like the idea of pulling him. I mean, he's been really the goaltender of record here. He's won a cup. He's done so many things for the Blues. And I was kind of a little surprised that he got pulled the way he was. I mean, Monty, we had a shot at him after the second goal went in, and he was not happy. And he kind of, if you read his lips well, you knew exactly what was going on.
Oh yeah.
But the first goal was a strange goal. I mean, it was one of those where two sticks hit, and he didn't pick it up, and it went in like a rocket. The second one, I think that Binnington maybe missed his angle a little bit, but these things are going to happen. So I was kind of surprised, especially 10 minutes into the game. But hey, when you're struggling, when you're not where you want, you're going to have things that happen. And I've always learned the coach is always right. No matter what you think, no matter what you want, if he has the right to pull you or his right to bench you, I sat on the bench lots where at times I didn't like it, and it's just the way it is. I mean, the boss is the boss, and you go with it. But it was a very disappointing loss last night. There's no question about it. They had a chance to get back to 500 last night before they hit on another big road trip that's going to be a tough one, and they didn't get it done. So it's been a kind of a crazy year so far. I mean, I think it's been a very surprisingly tough year because after the way the Blues played last year down the stretch and then into the playoffs, I think that we all expected this team to be really, really coming on fire in the camp and then to start the season, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I think we expected the same thing. And I remember when we were doing our little preseason predictions, we both said easily that this team was going to make the playoffs. But we also said that maybe it wouldn't come with its challenges along the way. But it certainly, we did not expect the start that we've had. But you mentioned a little bit. We were curious about what you kind of saw with this season thus far and comparing it to sort of last year. Like, where do you see on this team are the major differences that is separating this miraculous run that we had last year to make the playoffs? And now what's the chemistry? Is it that issue? Is it an offensive identity that we're lacking? Is it a combo of a lot of things? Where do you see it?
I just think that the players that are supposed to produce right now are not producing. I really think that's the simple part of it. I mean, the team has really not changed a lot. I mean, obviously you're missing a couple of, veteran defensemen, and both Suter and Leddy are gone, which opens up a hole there because you got a couple of guys you can really trust that are in their 30s that have both played more than 1,000 games. It's hard to replace those guys. But I think it's just come down to the Blues not scoring goals right now. I mean, the goaltending, you can talk about it. You can talk a lot of things about defensively that they've allowed too many chances. But I think there's enough talent on this hockey club that they should be able to score, and they're not scoring. I mean, you look at all the teams around the league. I mean, the Stars are scoring. I mean, if you're going to win games, it's whether it's Bedard or Celebrini or it's McKinnon or it's you go to Edmonton with Draisaitl and McDavid. your stars have got to score and they've got to produce numbers. And I think right now the Blues stars, the so-called guys that are supposed to be putting the puck in the net, aren't doing that right now. And I think that's been the biggest problem that the Blues have had. And that's why I keep saying is that no matter what you're thinking right now, the Blues still a couple of games below 500. They're only 3 or 4 points out of that wild card spot right now. All you have to do is put a streak together. And I think that this team is very capable of doing that once their stars get going and start scoring goals. Now, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, obviously, there's some issues, but I can't put my finger on. I wish I could, because I would go to the guys and say, hey, you got to start doing this. But it's been one of those strange years offensively that I really believe that when they get going, when they get some confidence and start scoring goals, then I think this team can really rebound very quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Bernie. I was going to say too, the season, I mean, we're only, a month and a half or so into the season. There have been a lot of ebbs and flows as to who is to blame for the problems that have been going on. I feel like at first it was the goaltending. I think that was pretty obvious off the bat. And then it did seem like the defense took a step back for the first month or so, and they're allowing way too many high danger chances. And then those two seemed to get better. It seemed like Hofer and Binnington and the defense started limiting chances. The defense started limiting chances, and then the goaltending started making bigger saves, and the ones that you have to make. Obviously, last night I think was the exception for Binnington. And then the offense decided to take the step back. And Luke and I were talking about this on Sunday. Last night, I thought they had probably 4 or 5, maybe even more than that, chances where you're just a hair off, whether it's the pass, whether it's the one-timer that Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou just aren't able to put away. I, in my opinion, and I've been fighting people online for the last 24 hours since last night, trying to calm some people down and saying, hey, this can come. And if we would like to forget what we were like last year at this time. Like, the Blues were not a great team last year at this point in early December. And it's not to say that we should be content with not being good at the beginning part of the season or the mid part of the season, but do you think, in from your perspective, watching this team all the time and watching them last year, that this is pretty comparable as to what they were last year and how they're performing this year? Or do you think there are some differences and things that need to be addressed?
No, I think that's a pretty good comparison to this time last year until Jim Montgomery took over, because it was a team that was kind of struggling to find their identity. And I think they found their identity at the end of the year last year. And that's why we're surprised that identity has not come into this year and the same play. I mean, what you said is absolutely right. I mean, the defense and the goaltending is always tied together. I mean, the defense was giving up way too many scoring chances. So, I mean, to the goaltenders, and the goaltenders can't make all those saves when they're just flat out great scoring opportunities. There's too many good scorers in the league that you're not going to make the saves on. But with that being said, as you said, is that has been tightened up a little bit. So now when you're playing really solid defense, you've got to be getting scoring chances at the other end. And I think that they're starting to create some, but they've got to finish. And I think that's up to the skilled players. I don't care how many. I mean, I always look at all these stats that come out, and I mean, it's who gets the quality scoring chances. It's not, I mean, these analytics that go in and say, oh, well, the Blues had 16 high danger scoring chances last night or 20. Well, who had them? Is it Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou, or is it Toropchenko or Walker? I mean, nothing taken away from those two guys that are on the fourth line, but they're not going to score as much as with good scoring chances as Thomas or Kyrou are. So I think that you got to look at that as the big picture. And right now, I don't think that the big stars are getting enough good scoring chances. And when they're getting them, as you said last night, they had quality chances that they missed. I mean, Neighbours had one on the doorstep. So did Kyrou. Those are things, and those are, to me, I mean, sometimes it's just bad luck. But I think a lot of times is when you're pressing too much, when you start thinking too much, you're not in the right position. You don't react fast enough. And I think that's what's happening right now. But that can change so quickly. And I really believe that this team has enough talent that it will change. And I hope it changes quicker than later. But I still really believe that this team is not where they should be. as bad as they've been, as we keep saying, it is early, yes, but it gets really, really late quickly. They are only a couple of games below 500, and that really can change very, very quickly.
Yeah. One of the things I think that I have found a little bit difficult to deal with as a Blues fan is the constant changing of these lines, that Montgomery is jumbling these lines every single night. And that has to do a little bit with injuries, especially with Neighbours early on. But really, this team was healthy for the last week or two, and then things sort of shifted starting last night and now continuing into this week with Walker and Snuggerud and Toropchenko and all these guys who are going to miss some time. But I don't know how you feel about this, but I was really curious to hear how you evaluate the line jumbling, because a lot of the times it did not make sense to me having, Matthew Joseph playing with a guy like Dylan Holloway or playing with a guy like Jordan Kyrou at times. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Does it make sense to you, I guess?
Well, let me just say it this way, Luke, is that Jim Montgomery has had a lot of success by doing this. I mean, he did it with the Bruins, he did it with Dallas, so he continues to change lines until he finds those combinations that really, really work. I mean, As a former player, no, I don't like it. I personally would like to be with the same couple of guys for 4 or 5 or 6 games so that we can get some chemistry going. And I see that, and I see the frustration on the players' faces too sometimes when it's changed a lot. But that's kind of the way the game goes now, is that when you're not playing well and when you're not finding a team that can score at will, if you want to say, or they find chemistry, you keep trying to change chemistry as quick as you can. And I disagree with a lot of it, but Monty's had a lot of success doing it that way. So I would love to see the guys stay together with 4 or 5 games together, and then see if they can find any chemistry, and then if there's nothing, then change it. I mean, when I played, I was with the same guys. I mean, and was always told by our coaches is that, hey, you guys get going. If you guys are going, 2 of you we're going to keep together, and we're going to give somebody that's struggling to be back on your line so that you can get them going, and then we're going to move him too. And that's, I guess that's a compliment to players when you're playing that way. But when everything is not going well for everybody, I think it becomes a little bit frustrating. And I'd like to see a change, but that's Monty's style, and he's been very successful with it. And hopefully the guys will respond. And once they get going, he probably is not going to change lines. I mean, you look what he did with the Bruins when they had that great year, 3 years ago. I don't think he was changing lines a lot, but when you start struggling a little bit, then you start changing. And that's kind of what coaches do, because their job is to win games. And if things aren't going well and you're not winning games, they try to change things things as quickly as they can so they can get wins as quickly as they can.
Yeah. And I have a follow-up there too, Bernie, like just on the season. I think we'd all be mistaken if we would say that the Blues maybe could be better in the point standings right now. Obviously, the goal differential speaks for itself. It's not great. Most of that was attributed to the first few weeks of the season where they were getting boat raced in a few of those games. Blackhawks kind of stick out. Utah sticks out a little bit there too. So if you take those away, obviously those happened and you live and you learn. But the Blues are 0-7 in overtime, and they've blown late leads time and time again. They are the worst team in the NHL when it comes to overtime performance. That there's no way of looking past it. We're talking about 7 points left on the board there. And it's not to say, you're going to win every game in overtime, but I do think last year they did find a good amount of success in winning games in overtime and shootouts, and those points matter. How do you attribute these late game blunders, and especially in overtime, where it doesn't really seem like the Blues should be at a disadvantage in overtime? It seems like they should be a well-rounded, good enough team to be able to pump a goal in the overtime period. In 3-on-3 hockey, it's pretty much anyone's game, and they have nothing to show for it. How do you attribute those performances to?
Well, I don't like 3-on-3 hockey. I've never liked it. I would rather go straight into a shootout, because your stars, let them go and try to score a goal 1-on-1 in the goaltender. And I've never really liked 3-on-3 hockey. And to put this, I can sum that up very quickly. I can't answer that question because the Colorado Avalanche are 0-6 too, and they've got 6 losses in overtime, and they're maybe the best team in the league, and they have one, less overtime loss than the Blues. So it's a strange thing. Last year, you're absolutely right. The reason that the Blues made the playoffs last year is because they were really good 3-on-3. Yeah. They won the faceoff, and they seemed to find a way to score that first goal. I mean, and I think you guys are probably watching the same. Really, the overtime now has really changed so much. Now, it used to be, it was like you try to score as quick as possible. It was kind of like you're going to trade scoring chances and hope your goaltender makes the big save, and then you come back and score at the other end. Now, it's puck control, puck possession, and they keep coming out of the zone. And to me, it has changed to the point where it's not even really that much fun to watch. And I wish that they would kind of put a new rule in. Once you get inside the offensive zone, you can't take it out. You have got to stay in there until there's a turnover, until there's a whistle. I mean, I'd love to see some changes to it, but I really can't answer that because they are a well-rounded team, and they're good on the faceoffs. They're winning that first draw for the most part to start the overtime. And yet they're not being able to score. And I don't know, sometimes I think it's they overpass it. I don't think they take the puck to the net enough times, but that's really a hard question to answer because I've watched some of these teams, and I mean, if you lose that first faceoff against the Avalanche, you know that they're going to score, yet they've lost 6 games. So I can't explain that at all, but certainly it's a thing that they have to work on more. And because if they get more overtime games, they're going to start winning some of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think another one of the things that they got to start doing better too, Bernie, is these struggles of closing games out. And I know Nick mentioned it in his point there, but talk to me about how that works really as a former player. I'm sure you know the pressures of this probably better than a lot of people, but this team has a remarkable issue with doing this. And it's not just this season. It was last year a lot. And obviously the epitome of it was against Winnipeg last year in Game 7. I still don't think this team is quite recovered from that. And we can talk about that too. But the struggles were apparent last season, even before that. So is this sort of a can't handle the pressure type situation? Is it just like unlucky? Like, where do you see that?
I think it's a little bit of both, Luke. Is that, okay. You know what? I think that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. When you're 6-on-5, you know that you've got certain things that you've got to take away. I mean, you take the center of the ice away, and you've certainly got to watch for that cross ice pass that's going to be a one-timer. You got to give your goaltender enough time to react to that cross ice pass. But I mean, I look back at last year. I mean, they were awful 6-on-5. They said they were going to work on it, and I think, well, you guys were at the game the other night on Friday night where they did brave the storm there. They did at the end of the game, and then they did the same thing against Utah. They were able to brave it, and not lose that game. But I think that they get really, to be too passive. I think that there's on 6-on-5. Usually, I mean, you don't want to ice the puck unless you got a good shot at it. Although some teams just do it. They're so confident in their face-off ability that they really don't care. I mean, the Stars, you look at the Stars, they'll shoot it down. So will Colorado. But when you're not winning those face-offs late in the game, and the Blues have not really done a good job with that, you can't afford to ice it. So it's more of a dumping out of the puck. But I'd like to see them get a little more aggressive at the points. I mean, it's like tic-tac-toe. I mean, it's keep away for too long. They're trying to take away the middle of the ice, and yet they're not blocking the shots that they're supposed to block. So, I mean, it's a fine line 6-on-5, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. But I think too many times, if we go back to that Winnipeg game, there was a couple of times that the puck was iced that didn't need to be iced. You just dump it off the boards. I mean, in our day, guys, if you dump the puck, and now it's a little different because if you ice the puck, you get to stay on the ice. You can't make a change. In my day, if we iced the puck 6-on-5, we got taken off, and you never got a chance to be there again because you iced the puck. Somebody scored. So it's a different the way the game is played now. But certainly they've been working on it, and they're getting a little better on it because they did not get scored against on Friday and Saturday. So hopefully they've got that figured out. But I would like to see them a little more aggressive 6-on-5 and keep that puck to that. So I mean, sometimes you got to take a chance and try to get that puck out a little different with a little more aggression.
Yeah, and I think they're PK has gotten a lot better in the last few weeks by itself. I mean, it was quite literally the worst penalty kill in the NHL for the first month of the year. Like I don't think there's any two ways about it. It seemed like whenever there was a power play and we had to do go out on penalty kill, we were going to let up a goal. That is completely flipped, I feel like, in the last few weeks, and they've been much tighter defensively on the penalty kill. So I think that's a good sight, and that's good that they're making progress on that end. I do think, however, they've taken a step back on their power play when they're a man up, and we were 0 for 6 last night.
Yeah.
And we had 6 or 7 shots on goal. They had more chances than that. I think that's a bit deceiving, but at the same time, if you're not going to be able to score on 6 different opportunities, it's just not good enough. So it's weird how everything is just ebbing and flowing in a way where the PK takes a step up, and now all of a sudden our power play is going to take a step back. Bad timing. But I did want to pivot a little bit, Bernie, on our young guys. There's no shortage of them that we have on the team right now. Obviously, Jimmy Snuggerud is not going to be back for a month and a half or so, getting surgery on his wrist. That kind of came out of nowhere. That was a huge bummer to see, but I think Jimmy Snuggerud's played pretty well. Would love your perspective. And then you have Dvorsky, and you still have young guys like Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, and these guys that are pretty early in career that are getting a bunch of ice time and have had good years on the Blues, or a good year on the Blues last season. Love to get your perspective on those guys, and even throw in Logan Mailloux, who's still, not polished in any sense, but there are a lot of young players right now in the Blues that are getting a lot of chances right now to play.
Yeah, Nick, you know what? Interestingly enough, in our meeting with Doug Armstrong earlier this year, the general manager of the Blues, he talked about the situation the Blues were in. I mean, I think that both Holloway and Broberg changed kind of the projection of this hockey club. I mean, I think that they felt that this year maybe was going to be a year where they were going to have all the younger kids like Dvorsky you talked about, and Snuggerud and all these kids, Mailloux now with the trade now, as well as Bolduc at the time. And it was time for them to kind of start transforming into NHL players. Well, because of the way Broberg and Holloway played last year, I think everything kind of came to the forefront this year that, no, it's time to be in the playoffs, because they made the playoffs last year. So I think this is still a really young team. And I think when you look at the future of this team, the talent, I think that Holloway is going to be a great player. I think Broberg, not that he's not even a great player already, I think he's only going to continue to get better. But Snuggerud has been outstanding. I mean, it's a hard game, though, guys. Though, I remember, coming up when I got called up and playing, and you get called up, and I played 30 games at the end of my first year after getting called for the minors. I scored 14 goals. Well, I came back to the start of the next year, and I had 4 goals at Christmas. It's a hard league. It really is. And once everybody knows how you play, they check you harder. And you got to change the way you play. And I think Snuggerud is finding that out. I mean, he didn't score the last 8 games. I don't know when he got hurt, or maybe it was before that with his wrist. But certainly the talent that they have, Snuggerud is, the way he competes, I love it. I mean, Dvorsky, I'm glad he's here right now, because he's going to continue to get an opportunity to play with the older guys and learn the game. He's really good on faceoffs. I mean, I think that he's going to need to get more active and really kind of show more what he's got. But it's players like that, and Holloway's going to get better. Broberg's going to get very better. I mean, Kyrou and Thomas are still pretty young guys too. They're in their 25, 26. So Mailloux, it's been not good for him. It's been kind of a struggle for him. And it's going to be continue. I think that defense is the hardest position to play in the NHL, because everybody is so much faster. And it's not just one guy or 2 guys where you're playing junior or college that are really fast. Everybody's as fast as you and as strong as you. So you have to adjust, and it's really, really hard to adjust. You're skating backward. Your transition game is so much more difficult. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them. But I think that you have to look on the big picture with this hockey club. I think that they're going to be a playoff team. I'd be surprised if they're not, because I think they've got enough talent. But I think I'm looking more for the future of this team. You got great goaltending with both Binnington and with Hofer. And when you put the rest of the younger guys and their future together, I think everything looks bright. But it's just a matter of working out the kinks and learning the game more, because there's so many good teams and teams that have been around that it takes a while to learn and really to be able to compete each and every night against those really good teams.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think you mentioned a little bit with Thomas and Kyrou, and I also want to add Buchnevich in there, even though he's slightly older than both those guys. But those are your three highest paid players right there. And I think at a point we can probably say that they're not in the spot where we would like to, at this point of the season, to their production. So I think maybe Buchnevich is probably the person who we focus on here with that, because I think Thomas and Kyrou have played pretty well thus far. I think there's more from their game I think that we can expect, but Buchnevich I think has been the one that has really sort of showed signs that this may not be working out as well as we thought, this new extension that he got in the previous season, the offseason. So where are you seeing him at this point of the season, and how can he turn this around? Because this guy was a 30-goal scorer just a couple seasons ago, and now he's entering this point where he just had his first 5-on-5 goal in the whole season a couple games ago against Ottawa. So I'm curious your perspective on him.
Well, Luke, you just don't lose it overnight.
Yeah.
That's what you have to understand, is that, I mean, he will rebound. I mean, I think the older you get, it's harder to start. It's hard to get your mind and your body going. As you get older in the league, I don't know why it works that way, but I think that you tend to not be as prepared early in the season as you are later on, because I mean, everything revolves around getting to the playoffs and then playing well in the playoffs. And Pavel has not played well. Obviously, Bucci is struggling right now, and I think he's his own worst enemy, because I think he really gets on himself and he gets frustrated too quickly and then starts playing a different game than he's really capable of playing. But the one thing with him is that he's really good defensively. He's got a great hockey IQ, and I think that once the puck starts going in for him, then I think that he's going to start being, more relaxed, and he's going to start actually making better plays and scoring and shooting at the right time and not trying to make a pass at the wrong time. So I think that he will, at some point in time, really turn that around. And you know, I'll just use myself as an example, going back to my second year when it was so difficult. I mean, I had 4 goals in January when we made a coaching change, and I ended up the year with 17. And then I was, scoring 30 or 40 after the year, every year after that. It's just a matter of, you get your confidence and then you go with it. But, and now I'm turning into my, early 30s, and now all of a sudden it was harder to score goals. It was harder because you didn't get to the front of the net at the right time. I mean, I don't know if it's your brain stops working the way it's supposed to, but I think it just becomes a little more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It becomes more difficult to kind of get your hockey sense to work as well as it was when you were younger. So I think that we're going to see that with Bucci. I think that he will bounce back, and I think that he'll still score 20 goals this year. I think that obviously, I think Robert Thomas will still score 20 goals. And I think that Kyrou's probably going to at least get 30, because I think these guys will be able to score goals. But right now, I think everybody is so concerned about playing defensive hockey that no one's playing with their just reaction now. They're all thinking so much that, I mean, at some point in time, you have to let your instincts take over. And I don't think that any of those guys are letting their instincts take over, because they're all looking at the sheets and they're all minus 10 or 12, and now they're thinking that, oh my God, we're going to get beat tonight. And it's all negative thoughts. And I think that they need to have just something that happens for 3 or 4 games in a row, and then they're going to be fine. But they got to do that themselves. No one can do that for them. They have to do that themselves.
Yeah, and I was going to go off that too, Bernie. I mean, I just looked up their plus minus on the core, and I would consider the core Buchnevich on the offensive side, Buchnevich, Kyrou, and Thomas. So Robert Thomas is the best plus minus at 0.
Yep.
And Buch and Kyrou are either minus 10 or minus 12 on the ice thus far. That's obviously not going to cut it. But from my perspective, in order for the Blues to be great, I think Robert Thomas needs to be a point per game player on average. And
At least.
I think Buchnevich has to score, like you said, at least 20 goals and has to have at least 60 points. And then Kyrou needs to have 30 goals and be around that 60-point mark as well. Both are not trending like that. If everything were to play out like they are on the average, it would not. Everything would be below that on all three of those players. Do you see that as the recipe for success, where Thomas has to be a point per game player, Buchnevich has to have 60 points, and Kyrou has to have 60 points, 30 goals? Like, is there another way, I guess, for the Blues to be successful if they can't do that?
No, Nick, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no question. When you look at plus minus, I mean, that is a stat that is so skewed, and it could be really kind of one of those stats that you look at. I mean, they're not scoring any goals. I mean, they played 26 goals, and when you're only, I mean, minus 10 or 12 sounds bad. But when you look at their points, what has Thomas got, 17 points? Or, I mean, I don't even know. They played 26 games. And as you said, if he's got 26 points right now, that's probably plus 9 more. All of a sudden, he's plus 9 instead of even. And Buchnevich and Kyrou are all of a sudden even. So that's the kind of thing. Yes, absolutely. If they don't start scoring, they're not going anywhere. That those players have got to score, and they've got to be point game players. And you know what? You have a support staff, your third and fourth lines. I mean, the Blues have missed Suter the last couple of games because he's been absolutely outstanding. I mean, he's really brings a lot to the table right now. But you have to have your core players, as you mentioned earlier, Luke. These are the three highest paid players.
Yeah,
they've got to produce, and if they're not producing, you know what? The team is not going to win, because that's your nucleus. Your nucleus is your best players, the highest paid players, and that's your goaltender in Binnington right now. I mean, that's your three forwards that you're talking about, and those are the guys that are supposed to produce. And if they're not doing it, I mean, that was my job. If I wasn't doing my job, then we weren't going to win, and it was really my responsibility. And I think it's those guys' responsibility, and they know that. There's no question they know that, and they know that they've not been good enough.
yeah, yeah. No, I also think I see it too and I think after that top three, it probably has to be Holloway and Suter and probably Neighbours, right? So that kind of completes your sort of top six, and we're excluding Snuggerud right now for the sake of the injury.
Yes.
He's probably in there right now. But with Holloway and Neighbours, I'm curious to hear sort of how you see their ceiling for this team too. And I know Holloway was around that 60-point mark. Their Neighbours obviously injured throughout the first part of this season, and he's slowly kind of working his way back, but hasn't seen that potential in the production what we saw early on in this one. So how do they kind of work into the picture from what you see?
Well, I see Jake Neighbours as really a solid 20-goal guy. I mean, he's going to get some really power play time. He's going to be killing penalties. I think he's more probably the guy that's going to probably fit in more on the third line. On a really good team, Jake Neighbours would be a really good third line player. I mean, I think that they're having him move up because they need to find some more offense. Yeah. With Holloway, I mean, from what I saw from Holloway last year, guys, I think that his upside is so great. I mean, I'm still shocked that Edmonton didn't match that offer, because I think when you watch him and talking to Tony Granato, who was his college coach at Wisconsin, this kid can do it all. He can skate, he can shoot, he can pass. He's not afraid to go into the corners or the front of the net. I think that his upside, I mean, I think that he could turn into the Blues' best player. And I even said that last year from the way he played. Now, I don't know if the injury that he had with his oblique last year is really affecting him now or whatever, but I still think that once he finds it again, I think that his skill level is just so high that he is going to be a top drawer player. I think he's going to be a top three guy on this team as far as forwards. And I think that he will prove that at some point in time. And I think he's going to have a real solid future because he does everything so well. So in that in mind, but there's no question that Holloway's a top six forward. I would say that more so with Neighbours, he's probably going to be a really good third line guy that can move up if someone gets hurt, and he's going to be able to get some power play time because he's not afraid to go to the front of the net, and he's willing to mix it up and do what he needs to do to help the hockey team win. So I think they're two really valuable players on this hockey club.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Holloway's played better. Obviously, he had a slower start, but I think he's been able to make more of an impact on the game. I know the results don't necessarily show that, but I do think he's scored a couple of good goals recently. And I think Broberg, I told Luke this the other day, I think the Blues are going to pay Philip Broberg a lot of money.
Yeah.
Very soon, and rightfully so, because he's played really well defensively, and he makes a big impact offensively too. The guy can move his skates better than most defensemen in the league, in my opinion. So I'm very high on him. I'm very high on Holloway as well. But pivoting back, Bernie, into the larger picture. So as we said before, the Blues find themselves 3 to 4 points out. A couple teams have some games in hand. It's not going to be easy, but we're still relatively early in this NHL season. There are about 55 games left for the Blues. The Blues are not known for coming on strong during the NHL season by any stretch. They usually have a good stretch later in the year, mid of the year, that they're able to make an impact and climb their way in the wild card or in the Central. Central seems a bit out of reach, in my opinion, at this point. You never know what can happen later. But what is your perspective on this? So we have December, January, Olympic break. Where would you like to see the team prior to that? Because a lot of people online, and we don't have to concern ourselves with people online, but at the same time, people are clamoring for trades. Let's tank, blah blah blah. Obviously, you're not going to do that right now. You're too close to the wild card to be even thinking about that remotely. So where do you want them to be? I guess let's just say Olympic break. Where would you like to see them in the standings, and how big of a strides, how many strides can they take to be a better team?
Well, Colorado and Dallas are really good. So I think that you just kind of leave them alone. I mean, they're going to probably continue to climb the ladder. I'd like to see the Blues, in that third spot by the Olympic break. I mean, that's the beginning of February. So, I mean, I think that's certainly possible. I mean, this is a team that I think that can go on a roll. Let's not forget about 2019. I think we said that all year long. I mean, going into January that year, we could see that team was really underperforming. And all of a sudden they turned it around and ended up winning a cup. I mean, I'm not saying that this team can do the same thing and win a cup, but I think this team is really playing well below their standards. I mean, for whatever reason, and I don't know, because we couldn't figure it out in 2019 why they were playing so bad. But all of a sudden, I mean, I will say this, that Binnington was the spark getting called up, winning that first game in Philly in January of 2019, and then they went on the roll. And I don't know what spark it's going to take, but I would like to see this team. I mean, right now, they've got to, first of all, get back to 500. Christmas is only 3 weeks away right now, and they've got to be a 500 team at Christmas. And then they've got to be, through the month of January, they've got to get into a situation where they're probably 7 or 8 games above 500 so that they can have a really good run there, because you're probably going to need 95, 96, 97 points to get in the playoffs. So you need to be 15 games over 500. So they got to be, 8 or 9 or 10 over 500 by the time the Olympic break comes on, because the end of the year comes really fast. But they proved last year after the 4 nations, as you said, that they went on a roll. So, yeah. I mean, the game is funny, guys. It's finicky. You know what? You can have the best team in the league out there, and if they can't combine and get their chemistry going, they don't win games. I think goaltending can steal a lot of games, which we've seen in the past. But I really believe that I still believe in this team. I don't think that by any means that we should be not worried, but certainly not overly concerned, because I think there is enough skill. Although you see the injuries now, that hurts. I mean, how do you replace Snuggerud, as you mentioned? I mean, they really don't have a lot of right-hand shots that can score other than Kyrou. So now you got to find. There's really, I don't know anybody in the minors that is a good right-hand shot that's a scorer. So Doug Armstrong may have to find somebody to come in to bring in somebody that can score But certainly, the longer Snuggerud is out, the harder it's going to be to score goals. So there's a lot of things that I'm glad that you and I, three of us, are sitting here not having to be the general manager, deciding what to do, who to move, and how to get it. But certainly the Blues have got to find a way to put a streak together. I mean, they haven't won more than they've only got two game winning streaks. They haven't won 3 in a row this year, and we're really a third of the way through the season. So they've got to be better, and they got to find a way to put a streak together.
Yeah, I also think one of the other sparks here, Bernie, is I think, and this is just me, I think it's Colton Parayko that really can make a big impact toward the rest of this team as we go along with the season, because the guy has 0 goals at this point. And at the last season at this mark, we were sitting at maybe 7, maybe probably 5 or 6 at this point from him. And I think not having a guy who can score a ton defense, I think Justin Falk has probably picked up a little bit of the slack left behind from Parayko. But I think just imagine if we can have 2 really important defensive pieces clicking on all cylinders like that. I think defensively it could really start clicking. That could also translate into offense with him too.
Yeah, Luke, I don't know what's wrong with Colton. I mean, he's certainly not jumping up to in the play like he did last year. And I don't know if there's an injury problem or whatever it is. But, I mean, you mentioned, Nick, you mentioned Broberg. Broberg's been absolutely outstanding. And Broberg takes the puck and goes. That's what Parayko did last year. Gets involved. You know what? If there's no one in front of him, get going. Get the legs going. When you're 6'6" and you can skate like that, if there's no one in front of you, don't pass it. Get inside the line, go. And he's not really been aggressive in the offensive zone. And I think that, I hope that changes, because I agree with you 100%. He is a big part of this team's offense. And the offense, I mean, let's look at last year. I mean, Fowler came in and scored 9 goals in the last 51 games that he played here with the Blues. I mean, he was a big part of the offense, and he only has 1 goal right now. Parayko, none. Falk has scored some goal. Broberg is getting involved with the offense. So you have to have your defense scoring. And if they're not, you know what, it doesn't help to put wins on the board. And there's no question that Parayko has not been there offensively. And that's something that I hope that he starts getting more involved with. And I hope that he even joins whether he's joining the rush, but once he gets into the offensive zone, he's got to go to the middle, get in there, and because you can't move him when he got that big. Go get some rebounds and get involved, and I'd like to see that happen as well.
So for the final thing here, Bernie, and you kind of hinted at it a couple points ago, where honest prediction how this season ends for the St. Louis Blues. You kind of hinted at it with the 3rd sort of Central Division spot. What's the final prediction that you would say?
Well, I think that they can get there. I mean, I certainly think that they are a playoff team. I mean, they proved last year that they could be a part of it. You know what? Everybody's improved in this league. I mean, you look at what San Jose is doing, what Anaheim's doing. I mean, they may have to battle for a wild card. I mean, Minnesota's playing really, really well right now. But, I mean, once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. I think the Blues were really a couple of seconds away from beating Winnipeg. So I just think that this is still a playoff team. I mean, whether or not they're going to get into the top 3, I think their focus right now should be is just maybe a playoff team, whether it's a wild card, whatever it is. But I think they have to start playing a little more desperate hockey right now, because as we keep saying is that all of a sudden it's Christmas, then it's the Olympic break, and then all of a sudden your backs are against the wall. And we always say, put the points in the bank early. And they've not been able to do that. So I think every game that goes by, there's more pressure on them. But I really believe that this is still a playoff hockey because of a couple of reasons. Binnington in goal. And as long as he's here, I think that there's always a chance that he's going to steal games. And I think with Broberg and Parayko, the way they can play, what they bring to the table, and I love the way, obviously, Falk has played this year. Fowler is a good player. I mean, the young kids, the 3rd pairing has been kind of a question mark, and I think that's something that the Blues still have to continue to get better on. But there's a couple lines that can score, and there's a good supporting staff. So I think that this is a team that has got to start believing in themselves. And once they start I think that they can challenge, and I really believe that they are going to be a playoff team.
Well, you haven't lost hope, but certainly a lot of Blues fans have. But we believe you, We honestly do. And we hope that this happens because we do not want to have to do what a lot of these teams have done over the past couple of years and tank at the deadline and sell everybody off, because it would be just such a huge disappointment for all of the hype coming in to this season with this team and all the young guys. So really appreciate that point. And Bernie, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate the time, and we'll be at TD Garden on Thursday. So hoping to get this team into a big streak here, Bernie.
Well, I won't be there, so you guys are going to have to carry the heavy lumber there and make sure that happens. But you know what? It's been a disappointing season so far, but that can change, and certainly I still believe that it's there, and I don't believe that the Blues are going to be sellers. I think that they got too much young talent that they've got to find a way to make it to the next level.
For sure. Well, we're certainly hopefully going to be along with the ride to this team on the playoffs. So we're praying for that. But thanks again, Bernie, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Luke,
Bernie.
It's been a pleasure. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.